Hello, YouTube. So, yeah, story of David Haller got a TV show. Am I the only one who thought that that was just kind of random? I mean, yeah, David Haller is an interesting character, but there are a lot more popular X-Men that you could have made a show about. Although it's not like I'm complaining, because I do actually find David Haller's story to be pretty interesting. So, yeah, what happens in it? That's very hard to say, because it's a very confusing way of actually showing you what's happening. Some of the episodes, they won't actually go in chronological order, although you can piece together what time and events things happened in, but yeah, sometimes they just won't go in a necessary order. They'll just go randomly, and you'll just sort of fill in the gaps. And there are some times where really it just sort of raises more questions than answers. And sometimes that really annoyed me, but that was pretty much my biggest gripe with the show, is that, yeah, sometimes it doesn't really explain its story. But yeah, the story itself, David Haller, or well, David Xavier, really? It just spoiled that for ya. Yeah, he's the son of Charles Xavier and Maria McTaggart, so yep, spoiled that for ya, even though it's not actually shown in the show yet, but yeah, that's who his parents are. Spoiled it. So yeah, there are gonna be some minor spoilers in this. So yeah, story of David Haller. He's a mutant who is extremely powerful, although he's also insane, with a lot of different personalities in his head. Even though in this show he only has two, himself and the Shadow King. Which, yes, I know nothing about the Shadow King. Actually, this was the very first time I ever heard about this character. Seriously, I never heard about this guy before. If you guys can tell me something about him, that'd be very nice. But I did look up some pictures of him online. Doesn't really look the way that he does in the show, so yeah, but anyway, he has the Shadow King as sort of a parasite that got into him when he was very young, and this sort of increased his mental illness, which, yes, he already had some to begin with he not really being able to control his powers in the first place, because, well, there's a lot of them. And, yeah, he would have needed proper guidance to actually be able to take care of them. Something that, I mean, his dad could have helped him out with, with him being, oh, I don't know, Charles Xavier. But no, I mean, of course, he couldn't actually have time to take care of his own son. Okay, yeah, in most versions of the story with David Haller, Charles Xavier doesn't actually know he has a son, and he also doesn't know that he has powers. It's only until he actually finds out about him through Cerebro that he actually finds out about David Haller. But yeah, this is a really weird change in this show, because he actually knows about him here, or at least they suggest that he does. So yeah, that's a really weird change that just makes me wonder, why doesn't Charles just take care of him? I mean, yeah, okay, they do give a reason, like, he's afraid that the Shadow King will get him, but the Shadow King does anyway, so what's the point of this? But anyway, apparently Charles Xavier has a dark past with the Shadow King. It's never explained what exactly is their dark past, but they have a past. So at least we know that. So, and pretty much David, after a big outburst of his powers, gets sent to an institution where he spends a few years, and he eventually meets a girl named Sydney, who is also a mutant, and they sort of find a bond, although she doesn't like to touch people because, well, if she does, then she pretty much switches minds with them. Although her powers work kind of strangely, like an example of how she had sex for the first time. Yes, this is actually explained in the show. She pretty much switched minds with her mother, and while her mother and some other guy were drunk, she pretty much used her mother's body to have sex with him. Although eventually halfway through, because her powers only work temporarily, halfway through, she's just normal again. Like, her mother gets her mind back. Although, when we see her powers being used for the first time in the show, we see that apparently whenever her mind swapping is done, the body just comes back with her. That's not how it works with her mother, though. So I really don't know how this works, but it works somehow. So yeah, I guess it just sort of switches how it works, because also in an episode we do see it work the same way it did with her mother. So yeah, it's really confusing as to how her powers actually work. But anyway, so David and Sid eventually kiss. Although we never actually see that happen, they just say that happened, so we should just listen to them on that. So, pretty much, Sid gets all of his incredible powers. And yeah, she doesn't really know how to control any of them, and this results in a massacre. So, eventually, some people from Summerland, a knockoff of Charles Xavier's Institute, pretty much, they start looking into this, while the police, they never start looking into this. Seriously, we never even see the police in the show at all. We see the government getting actually interested in this, but the police, they never even come in. Why? I don't know. I mean, it was a huge massacre. Maybe they just sort of got shipped off to the government because this was a very mysterious case, but yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. So David is eventually taken in by the government, but while they try and find out if he actually has powers, because apparently they had control over the institution that he was in for years, but yeah, they decided to limit the power usage that he had, and now they want to know if he actually has powers. Logic. Just saying logic. So eventually, the people from Summerland do get David out, and he goes to join them. They try and help him to control his powers, while saying that there's no way he has any mental illnesses. Yeah, I'm calling BS on that. So, yeah, he obviously has at least schizophrenia caused by his hallucinations, which he obviously has, but for some odd reason they're saying, no, he can't possibly have schizophrenia. And then it's revealed later that he does have DID, dissociative identity disorder. Although they again say, no, there's no way he has this. Why? Why is there no way? Why can't he just actually have a mental illness is beyond me, but yeah, for some odd reason, the person in charge of Summerland is just like, nope, there's no way he could possibly have it, even though she's faced with evidence that he does, but she's just an idiot who just wants to ignore that for some reason. So, yeah, they can't control his powers there, but he does learn a little bit more control, and eventually the Shadow King, which is his other personality, does take control over him. And this is when the show got interesting to me. I'm always a fan of a man versus self story, and pretty much split personalities are where those can be done the best, and I really do like how it's done here, even though I am kind of disappointed that it is just two personalities inside David's head, because in the comics, he has hundreds of different personalities. Well, not necessarily personalities, as they're pretty much people's personalities that he absorbs somehow. I really don't even know how that works, but yeah, that is how it works. He can pretty much absorb people's personalities, and those get stuck in his head. And each personality has a new power. Here, though, he just has all the powers that come with those personalities without the other personalities. Although he does get the Shadow King, which, yeah, that is where it does get more interesting to me, but eventually they find a way of making it confusing again. Like when they start explaining things, everything goes silent, then for some odd reason, yeah, they make like the last half of like the fourth episode completely silent for some reason. And yeah, they're trying to stop David eventually, and they do, but then they're getting shot at, and the Shadow King pretty much just takes them all inside David's head because, She wants to trick them into thinking that they're in the institution? Why? Yeah, it gets very confusing. So, yeah, eventually they get out, and David is saved until he isn't, and then the government comes back because we need to see the government return. So yeah, the government comes back and they're still after David, they're still after Summerland, and then they try and make a truce, but that doesn't really work that well as the Shadow King is slowly gaining control over David again, and yeah, their machine that they use to control it isn't really holding that well. And then it's pretty much just the Shadow King going through different bodies until it eventually lands in Oliver, the person who's in charge of all of Summerland's husband. And yeah, I guess he's just sort of fine with that. So they go off into a car to do some more carnage or whatever they're gonna do. And then we get an end credit scene, which is David getting sucked into a sphere and getting taken off. I really don't know what that's supposed to be. I mean, I have a theory that it might be Mojo, but yeah, I don't really know if it is for sure. Although if it is Mojo, I would love that. For those of you who don't know, Mojo is pretty much an alien that pretty much just sort of uses Battle Royale with superheroes, and he just sort of puts that on TV. That, to me, would be the perfect way of introducing David's control over his powers more, as, yeah, he does get more control over his powers in this season, and it would be awesome to see him actually be able to use them just in a whole entire TV show situation. Also, Mojo is an awesome villain, so I would love to see him come onto the show. Although there really isn't any confirmation that this is him outside of the sphere taking him away. But yeah, that's just my personal theory, and from what I've heard, I'm not the only one who thinks that, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see with that. But I am excited for the next season. So with this show overall, it is confusing and trippy. Really, really trippy. Now, if you didn't already get that from my synopsis of the story being all over the place, then yeah, watch the first episode at least. You'll see it's really trippy, and it never really stops with that. Whenever you think it's starting to make a little bit more sense, scuba diver that lives in an ice cube inside the astral plane. Yes, that really happens. So yeah, there are quite a lot of moments like that where it really just left me wondering, what's happening? Like, at the end, it does start to make more sense, but yeah, they also leave it off with a lot more questions as well, so yeah. And this is one of those shows that you really gotta pay close attention to in order to get it. I've at least seen every episode twice, and yeah, doing it that way does make a little bit more sense, but it's still very confusing that way. But yeah, the story to me, which is pretty much the weakest part, but it does get better, and I do at least like following these characters. It's just that the story's actual way that it's being done isn't really making that much sense. Although it does make more sense near the end, but yeah, it kind of takes a while to actually make sense. So, and even when it does, then it's still kind of confusing. But that's probably my biggest problem with the story. Now, one thing that I really do love with this show, the cinematography. Oh my god, it's amazing. I haven't watched Fargo, but now I might want to, because this is the same guy who does that show, and I love the cinematography here. He has a great use of color, and the way that every single shot is planned out, it just looks so precise. Every single shot is always planned out to a very precise manner, and it just looks great. It really just looked very thought out, and I just love the way every single shot in this show looks. It's sort of a way of showing how, yeah, visually a show can still be interesting. In fact, I liked looking at the show more than I did watching it, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it is much more interesting if you actually are looking at the way everything looks about it, because it's a very interesting show just to look at. So, if you're watching this show, definitely make sure that you don't have anything interrupting you, because really just looking at it on its own it's just a treat. So, yeah, I really did love just at least looking at the cinematography in the show. That's really what made it stand out to me from any other Marvel show right now. So, then we also have the characters. There's quite a few to go through, so I'll just sort of touch on my favorites. So, we have David Haller. Easily my favorite character in the show. Like I said before, I'm always a sucker for a man versus self story, and even though he doesn't have as many personalities here, it is still very interesting to watch, and really, the show does take advantage of the fact that he is insane, because honestly, I still don't even know if this show is just taking place inside of his head or not. That's how well executed the whole entire way that the show is done is. It's very confusing that way, but it is interesting. And of course, David Haller is actually a very likable character, and one that I really enjoyed following. So yeah, David was really cool. Then we have Sid. Not sure how to feel about her. I mean, she's okay. Like, didn't really end up loving her. She just sort of seems like the bland girlfriend character, and that's really all that she is. I mean, yeah, we do get to see how much she does actually care about David, which makes her a likable character. It's just that she's not all that interesting as the other characters in the show. Really, to me, she just sort of stuck out because, well, I don't know if she's a personality in David's head or not. Because really, the show never answers that, and it really does seem to set that up. I know I'm not the only one who thought like that, but yeah, there are a lot of moments where I'm just wondering if she's actually just in his head or not. Although then we also get some moments where she's alone, or at least when David isn't around her, so yeah, that kind of might confirm that she's not in his head, but still, it's still a thing that I am really wondering about. But yeah, that's pretty much the most interesting thing with her. So, I mean, she's alright. I just didn't overly love her. So then after her, we have the person in charge of Summerland. I forgot her name, but yeah, she's really boring to me and got very annoying. Like, at first she seems alright, because, I mean, like, she does just sort of seem like a Charles Xavier knockoff. Like, she's just trying to help out the mutants at the school, while also not having any powers, which is something that I think made her a little bit more interesting. But then, we see that her real reason for wanting to help out David, or any mutant, really, is so then they will join in her war, and specifically David, she wants him to help get her husband out of the astral plane, where he's been stuck for a few years. So yeah, she seems very selfish in that area to me. I mean, yeah, I can understand why she would feel that way after so long, and actually having a chance to be able to get her husband back, but still, I feel like there could have been a way to do this where she didn't seem so selfish. But yeah, she is still an alright character, and I don't mind following her. Although she just sort of got pretty annoying to me at times. Then we have Carrie and Carrie. Yes, there are two Carries. And they're pretty much mutants that live inside, like, one of the Carries lives inside the other Carrie. Yeah, it's kind of confusing as to how they work. But anyway, the girl, Carrie, she fights. That's her big thing. And then the other Carrie, he's smart. That's their thing. So yeah, they're actually kind of interesting in this show, even though they don't have that many powers, really, outside of one of them goes inside the other, and that way they don't age, really. Their relationship can actually be pretty interesting, and you do really see how much they rely on one another, and how actually they got used to their situation very quick. Honestly, I found that to be pretty interesting about them, and they are really good characters, and ones I really liked following. They also have some pretty funny moments and some cool scenes. So yeah, I liked them. moving on. So then we have Oliver. It's kind of weird. Like, I can understand, yeah, okay, he's forgotten most things, and he's kind of gone a little bit nuts because he's been stuck in the astral plane for years, but that's pretty much the biggest thing with him. He's quirky. That's pretty much it. There was really nothing else to him. And yes, we do get to see that he is actually an intelligent person a few times, but that's really it, and that's kind of all there was to him. I mean, he's fun, but really, I just didn't really like him all that much as I liked some of the other characters in this show. Then we got Memory Editor guy. Forgot his name. He is there. Yeah, pretty much what he does is he goes inside people's memories. That's his thing. Yeah, that's really it with him. Like, we do see that he does remember every detail of his life, even being in his mother's womb. Kind of interesting there, but that's never explored. But, yeah, that's pretty much it with him, really. It's just he has good memory and can go inside memories. Get it? His thing is memory. So, yeah, that's really it with him. Like, I thought he was alright. I found him actually to be a pretty likable character, and one that I did want to see more of. It's just that we don't really get to see him that often, and he's just sort of in the background most of the time. Really, his biggest moments are when he wants to befriend David, and then a little bit later when he says, "Let's kill David!" That's pretty much his big moments, and yeah, it's kind of a random flopping character there, but yeah, I mean, he's alright. Then we have Metal Control Guy, who isn't Magneto. He is in the show. Yeah, that's his thing. So, yeah, he's bland. Like, I would like to learn more about him, but unfortunately, they never focus on this guy, and then he gets stabbed, so yeah. I can't even tell if he actually died from that. They never really show. It just, he got stabbed. Bummer. So, he was important. And then we also got some of the guys in the government. Like, Weird Eye shape-shifting guy. Who likes to whittle. He's a creep. That's pretty much all I gotta say about him. He's just sort of a creep. So, yeah, although I do like his whittling. I mean, really, he gets really specific. Like, he makes a little dog statue. It's really detailed. I actually kind of wish that you could teach me how to whittle that well, because I do like to whittle, so, yeah. That was the biggest thing that caught my interest with him. I'm pretty sure that's not what I was supposed to be paying attention to, but yeah, anyway, that's why I caught with him. And then he dies a horrific death. Seriously, his death is awesome. Like, every single bone in his body gets crushed, and then he just becomes a sphere, and yeah, I'm way too happy about that. But it looked awesome! So, yeah, his death was amazing, and definitely made me feel happy that we actually got to see his story arc all the way through. Because even though I didn't really like him, I did really like his death. So that's all that really matters at the end of the day. And then there's gay guy in the government. He's there. I mean, like, he is kind of a likable character, really, when we do get to know more about him. And even though I still find the gay thing being put into TV shows a lot lately to be really weird. Like, I don't know why that's a new trend. Why is that happening so much? But, yeah, honestly here, I think it's sort of one of the most natural ways I've actually seen it be put into the show. It's not treated as something very weird or anything, and it's not really forced and in your face like it is in Steven Universe. And, yeah, even though I do like Steven Universe there, it is really forced as to how much they're like, we are cool with gay people, get it? So, yeah, to me, that honestly got kind of annoying on Steven Universe, and, yeah, I kind of wish that they would cool it with that a little, but here it's actually treated very nice, and it's pretty much just sort of like, that's a thing. Anyway, they're gonna watch TV. That's really it with them. That's really it, and yeah, I actually did like them, and they were pretty nice characters, so I did like those two. And they have a kid. Good for them. So, yeah, that's pretty much it with all the government people. So let's talk about the main villain, the Shadow King, or Lenny, or King, or the Angry Boy, whichever face you want to give him. So, yeah, he, or she, whenever he's Lenny, it's very interesting to look at, really. Anything with this character really actually is very interesting. Every single part of this character really was very visually stunning, and you definitely get to see that this is where they get to go really nuts in the editing department, or just sort of in the special effects work, because anything with the Shadow King looks really great. And especially at the end, I really like, eventually, some of his forms, like Lenny, are sort of decaying. So, yeah, Lenny pretty much looks like a zombie, and whenever Lenny tries to walk, then it's sort of like tar on her boots. It looked really cool. So there is pretty much a lot of very good visual moments with this character, but that was kind of it to me. I never really found this character to be that threatening outside of when it sort of actually just tried to display its power. And even at that, I just sort of thought it looked really cool. Like that one scene inside of that government base, I forgot the name of it, like when people are actually getting sucked into the floor, that looked awesome, and that's how they die. Like, they get sucked into the half of the floor, so like half of their bodies are out, they're like screaming. It's awesome. And like that whole entire scene, I loved. So they really do get to play around with this character and its reality bending abilities. So I really did like watching a lot of scenes with this guy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the characters. It's really a mixed bag for me on them, because some of them, like the Shadow King, David Haller, Carrie and Carrie, Memory Guy, a lot of them I really did enjoy, but then there are some of them like Woman in Charge of Summerland, her husband Oliver, Whittling, Shape-Shifting Guy. Yeah, a lot of those characters really, to me, I like them fine, but really I do wish that there was a little bit more personality thrown into them. But yeah, they are still alright. It just feels like they're very one note. So, really, when it comes down to the characters, I'm pretty mixed on them. And there are also some of them that I wish were explored a little bit more. So, yeah, overall, for this show, I think it's really pretty fun, actually, and definitely worth a watch. It can be confusing a lot of the time, really, but it's definitely worth it. And I feel like they will answer a lot of your questions on it as the show progresses, because keep in mind, this is only season 1, and they only have 8 episodes per season, so yeah, I feel like they can actually sort of fill in a lot of the answers here, and it was a really fun show to watch. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens next with it. Although I am kind of disappointed that David Haller doesn't have any other personalities in his head anymore. Like, now it's just David Haller. That kind of takes away from a lot of what made him interesting to me in the comics, but yeah, I do still really like him here, and yeah, I'm interested in seeing where the show goes. It's definitely worth a watch, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.